Hi, Virgo. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for March of 2020. For you this month, Virgo, there's some Mercury activity. You're probably already aware that Mercury is retrograde. We're going to see you through that and out the other side. And it really matters, of course, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So we'll talk about that. But before that, Julia has some things to say about Venus, Mars, and also Saturn. Hey, Julia, what do you got to say to the Virgos of the world right now?
Hey Virgo. Well, let's talk about Venus first. Venus is the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, and she's going to be entering your ninth house of the higher mind on March 4th. So that's the house of adventure, travel, and expanding your intellectual horizons. And wherever we have Venus is where we experience some pleasure. So that could mean that you take some type of pleasure trip, and if you are traveling, you could also have some sort of fun holiday romance as well. Now, if you're partnered, then this could be a really good time for sharing an adventure together by trying something new because this house really does love new experiences.
Mm.
Then on March 19th, we're having the spring equinox, and that's when the sun actually enters the very first degree of Aries, and that takes place in your eighth house. So this is a time for starting a new cycle in all eighth house related things. The eighth house is about other people's money and intimacy, so you might want to find new ways of bringing more intimacy into your partnership, or you could be finding a new way of organizing your shared finances better. And again, that would be your debts, inheritances, and investments too. Now, I'd like to talk about Mars as well, because Mars is going to be spending most of the month in your fifth house of games and sports. So if you are involved in any of these activities, you could be extra competitive in all the games that you play. Those could be things like video games or internet crosswords or team sports, things of that nature. The fifth house is also the house of children, so if you do have any, you may run into more arguments with them than usual. Then Mars is going to be entering your sixth house on March 30th, and that's the house of job and health. So you could feel a little extra driven at your job too, though again, you might be a little bit more prone to conflict at work as well. And the last planet I want to talk about is Saturn. Saturn is making a pretty big shift this month. It's changing signs, and throughout this year, it's going to be going back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn, but once it fully gets into Aquarius, it's going to stay there for at least 2 years. So these are pretty big transitions. So when Saturn enters Aquarius, it's going to be going into your sixth house of work and health. And wherever we have Saturn is where we have to experience some challenges, some frustrations, some blockages. But it's not just there to be a total buzzkill on your life, even though sometimes it might feel that way, because Saturn can also manifest things and make things more real as well. So having it in the sixth house means that again, some frustrations, some blockages might happen at your job, and you also might have to deal with some health crunches too during this long transit as well. But this could be an excellent transit for starting some new health routines, which are supportive of, let's say, if you're dealing with something, because Saturn is also a planet that can make things last a long time as well. So if you do start a new health routine, you can be more assured that it's going to maybe have some good longevity to it and really sort of help you manifest better health in the long run. And what's going on, you think, with the moons and with Mercury this month, Jamie?
Yeah, and I really like the stuff that you said about Saturn. I think when people shake their fist at God, they're actually shaking their fist at Saturn without realizing it. We have a
Yeah.
tendency to feel really oppressed by Saturn transits, but they are such an opportunity as well. And you're right. The things that you do during a Saturn transit through a particular house, when you really take up the work of that thing and you put something into place and you build on that, it is built to last. And that's a wonderful thing. And I think the Virgos of the world might well agree because, Earth sign. So let's see. I want to go back to the beginning of the month because as March begins, Mercury is still retrograde. Oh, God, yes. And boy, is that not fun for Virgo. Mercury rules Virgo, so whether you're a Virgo sun or Virgo rising, Mercury retrogrades are definitely something to know about and to notice. This month we did not make a special video for Mercury retrograde. Instead, we put the Mercury retrograde stuff into the full moon in Virgo video. And that might be of particular interest to you. It's called Coming Out of the Fog, and you can find it in our Pandora Astrology channel on YouTube in the playlist, the March 2020 playlist. But I am going to talk about it now a little bit in your house structure here with Virgo rising. So Mercury is retrograde in Pisces as the month begins, and it's been so much confusion, so much mystery, so much mess, and so many, I think, bad conversations that are trying to clean up the past, but maybe just where it's not well articulated. And office work, wow, that tends to go awry under Mercury retrograde. And when Mercury is also in Pisces, it's very difficult to, keep things orderly. They tend to descend into chaos. It's really, really good to have extra patience while Mercury is retrograde. So, but here on March 4th, Mercury retrogrades back into the end of Aquarius, which is actually great because Aquarius is the sign where Mercury is exalted. It's the sign Mercury loves to be in the best. And for you, Virgo, that falls in your 6th house. So this is kind of like saying Mercury, when it moved ahead into Pisces, brought you into a whole bunch of conversations that brought a lot of confusion into your partnerships. And then when Mercury went retrograde, it's like Mercury is saying, wait, hold up, stop. I need to go back and fix something back there. And it retrogrades into your 6th house as if to say, I have to go to my job and fix some stuff there. And then I can go back to my partnerships and be more effective with my conversations. And that's going to mean something different and specific for each individual. But it is the general idea. So Mercury goes direct on March 9th. Woohoo! Finally! It usually spends about 3 weeks retrograde, and it does come to an end. And right there it is on March 9th going direct. And we know that because of the little red S here, which means stationing, standing still, getting ready to go direct. And meanwhile, on the same day, we have the full moon in Virgo, and that moon falls into your 1st house of identity, of self. And the full moon is often a time that that we feel in our relationships because the sun and moon are opposed to each other, and there's a very strong tendency of identifying with one of these poles and projecting the other. Because you're Virgo, chances are the moon in Virgo is the part that you'll identify with, and you'll feel like, well, if I just get my own shit together, pardon my language, if I just get my own shit together, then, my partner can just be totally flaky and I won't have to worry about that. And that's represented by the Sun conjunct Neptune here in your 7th house in Pisces. So yeah, your partner might be being pretty flaky. That might make you really frustrated. That might make it hard to communicate with them. But you can always just retreat to your own corner and just get your own clarity. And that might be exactly what you want to do under that full moon. We've dubbed that moon coming out of the fog because that moon in Virgo happening while Mercury is turning direct is probably going to feel like a wonderful clarity finally happening after these weeks of Mercury retrograde. So you might want to check out the video about that in the March news playlist on our YouTube channel. Now, as the month goes along, we have a new moon, which is happening shortly after the sun moves into Aries. And so this is going to feel very much like springtime. And here it is on the 24th. And we've called this Springtime is for Healing because Chiron is there, nestled in between the sun and moon in Aries. So all of that feeling of rebirth, of freshness, of newness, new beginnings is happening for you in your 8th house, of intimate relationships, of psychological depth, of metamorphosis and transformation. So it's time to plant some seeds, to rebirth some things there, to focus more on the light and less on the darkness, and to do some real healing. And you can find our video about that also in the March 2020 news playlist. Now, with all this activity going on in your 7th and 8th houses, and also a little bit in your 6th house, you really could kind of take your choice in terms of whether you wanted to get a reading about career or relationships. And I'll give you both links in the YouTube description below so that you can choose one if you're feeling like you want a reading. You can always find your horoscopes in our YouTube playlist for horoscopes gathered together by month. And if Virgo is your rising sign, I would suggest you go look up your sun sign horoscope now. And if Virgo is your sun sign, then definitely go look up your rising sign horoscope because that one should work better for you. Thanks for watching, Virgo. We really enjoyed making this video for you, and we'll see you next month and around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.